Welcome to the Calm Cockpit, where pilots of all levels learn how to stay sharp under pressure, discover high-performance tools, and learn from professionals who can help you fly smarter and stress less.
Today, we're talking all things fitness. If you've ever tried to follow traditional fitness or nutrition advice while flying for a living, you already know it was not built for our schedules.
Yes, those long duty days, irregular sleep, mental fatigue, and hours of sitting mean that flight crews need a different approach. One that's flexible, realistic, and grounded in performance, not perfection.
That's why we invited today's guest, Lashae Bacon, back for another episode. Lashae is a former Army helicopter pilot, a certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, and an FAA safety team training provider in the Wings program. She has a specific focus on health, fitness, and nutrition for aviators.
In this conversation with Lashae, we'll break down why strength training matters more than endless cardio, how to think about nutrition for real life, and how to build fitness habits that work with our aviation schedules, not against it.
If you're ready to stop the fitness all-or-nothing mindset and start training for real-world flying, this episode is for you.
The Calm Cockpit Podcast starts now.
Onyx 1-2 Mike Oscar, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Hello, everyone. I'm Geeta Brown, yoga and meditation educator, music educator, and I have over 30 years of experience in training high performers how to improve their lives without adding stress. And I'm also a student pilot.
And I'm John Niehaus, corporate aviator and longtime professional flight instructor.
Welcome to today's episode. We were so excited to have Lashae with us on season 1, episode 13. We focused a lot on nutrition in that episode, so we wanted to have her back, especially because she has a brand new flight crew health course. John and I both took it, and we thought it was so fantastic. We learned so much. Why not have her back on to really do that deep dive into exercise? As John said in the opening, she's a former Army helicopter pilot, so she understands the challenges, but she's also a personal trainer, nutrition specialist, and because of all of her unique background, I think she really not only understands our challenges, but is really good at sort of translating fitness into real life actionable strategies, which is what we're all about here. I do have to say for the record, John, you finished the course before I did. So take all your kudos. You blasted through that course. There's so much information in the course. I was overwhelmed, but honestly, by how much learning there was in it. She really did a great job putting it together.
She did. And it is easy for me to say because, you know, when you're stuck in a hotel room over a major holiday, you've got a little bit of spare time on your hands. Not to say that it wasn't well worth it, because it was, but, you know, I have to give you a little bit of grace here.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I did learn some things, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the episode. But if you recall, I actually messaged you and was like, oh my God, how much protein are we supposed to eat?
Uh-huh.
I didn't have any idea how much of some of these basic things I was lacking just in my own health. And so it is some practical, like, put into your life advice that you can actually take away and start tomorrow.
Absolutely. She does a great job explaining all of this. So I think without further ado, we'll let her do all of the teaching in this. We'll listen to the interview. After the interview, as always, John and I will come back. We'll give you our key takeaways. And then, of course, you know me as that wellness provider. I have a few sort of like big picture things to think about, just how to take anything that she's talked about in the episode and really make it work for you. And I think you're going to love the episode with her. She has a lot of great information. So without any further ado, let's get to the interview with Lashae Bacon.
Lashae Bacon of the Mile High Health Club, welcome back to the Calm Cockpit.
Yay! Yay! Thank you so much. So
Oh, we're
exciting.
so glad to have you. We have so many burning questions. Last time we had you on, we talked a lot about nutrition. I think a little bit of that's going to come back around again today because, again,
Okay.
I have some burning questions for you. But we kind of thought that maybe this time we could talk a little bit more about fitness and pilot fitness. And we're still early on in the year, so it's kind of front and center on most people's minds nowadays. So I think we've got a really good plan on what we're going to talk about from a fitness aspect. And it actually works really well from a timeline standpoint because you just released a whole new course about health and fitness. And I want to make sure we get a second to talk about that. So what's it called? Where do I find it? And what's the course?
Well, first of all, if they haven't listened to our first episode about nutrition yet, they should go do that. Just so that they understand some of the crossover that we'll be talking about. But yes, I launched the Flight Crew Health course underneath my company, Mile High Health Club. You can find that on my website, milehighhealthclub.life. But it's an 8-module course that I will be teaching you a variety of topics about health. The first one being nutrition, of course. It's kind of at the forefront of one of the biggest struggles that flight crews and aviators in general just have. And then, of course, down the line, I do mention and I don't even mention it. I have a whole module on fitness, which is what we're primarily going to be focusing on today.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, what do they say? New year, new me. So it's definitely one of those things. And I think the goal, especially for pilots as we progress through the year, is to, in the pre-show chatter, you guys were talking about how they tend to disappear in the gyms after about 2 months. So let's encourage these flight crews to continue this through the course of the year with you as their guide, right?
Yeah.
Amen. I want to give just a little shout. I have taken and now completed the Flight Crew Health course.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. So much great information in it.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah.
I will lead this episode with that. It's a lot of information, but I don't want people to feel overwhelmed by that because it's also at your own pace. So as you both experienced, each module has multiple lessons of the various topics. And my goal was to put them in an order that was more easily digestible by people. So it's like you're starting out with your foundational information towards the beginning of the module. And then you're going to go into how do I apply this to myself? And then going into, all right, how do I apply this long term and continue this practice? Yeah.
That's key. That's key because there's so much information on social media about health, wellness, fitness, nutrition.
Yeah.
But if it's directed to whatever audience that influencer is directing it towards, and that's where people get confused because they might hear something about intermittent fasting or mushroom coffee or this supplement or that supplement. It's not necessarily directed towards their age and their demographic and their job. That's why your course is really cool because it's tailored to a specific population who has the same challenges. And I really appreciate that you don't give that one size fits all. You make it general enough for all aviators to adapt. So kudos for that.
Speaking of like social media trends and influencers and everything like that, it can be tricky because now people do such a good job at marketing products and just things that you feel like it is targeting you. But I feel like that feeling might come from a place of some slight insecurity or misinformation or just even not knowing. And so it's important to have this information about yourself, your goals, what you're actually wanting and what you need so that you don't feel so overwhelmed by all that social media trash that is just constantly bombarding us.
So as we start down the fitness train here, and we'll try to relate it back to the course as best we can in certain places, but again, new year, new me, challenges of fitness. Like what kind of challenges do you see the people that you work with encounter the most? What are the most common things?
Yeah, literally lesson 1 of the fitness module.
Yeah.
So I lead with what are the challenges of fitness in aviation? So let's go through these together. The first one I mentioned was time. Of course, that's the big red flag one. And the most common excuse across the board for a lot of people is I just don't have enough time. For aviators, that's no different. Some of the biggest time constraints that a lot of people have, no matter where you're at in your career, you're always training, whether you're a pilot, whether you're in the back as part of the crew, there's always training happening. And that absolutely has to be prioritized because that's part of the safety of what we do. That training and just our daily work, that takes a toll on us as well. So to go into another thing that I mentioned is energy. Like people just don't have enough energy to work out. So after we get done with these day-long shifts, sometimes sitting can be very monotonous, right? Even just like doing nothing can be draining because we use a lot of energy mentally as aviators. People underestimate how much energy, calories, right, your brain requires to function at a higher level. So don't underestimate how much energy your brain is utilizing. Also our environment. So again, being sedentary a lot, sitting around a lot, especially the pilot side of things. The crews that might work in more austere environments like I used to every year for a certain period of time, right? That takes a toll on you as well. Any injuries or feelings of pain or maybe just neglect for yourself. And so some of the pain that you're feeling, you might feel like is an injury, but it might not be an injury. So those are just the top 4 things that I hit there in that first lesson for challenges that we encounter as flight crews. That time, energy restraints, environment restrictions, and just injury or pain. Those can all be valid excuses, but at the end of the day, they are excuses. Yes. So I just want people to be honest with themselves, recognize that, right? I use those excuses sometimes too, right? I'm no different. I go through ruts. I'll run a program and then after that, I'll be exhausted, honestly, and not be motivated to go back to the gym, to do a workout, whatever. And then we're going to talk more about some like workarounds for those and everything. But I don't want people to lean too heavily into those excuses like a lot of people tend to do.
So I think one of the issues that a lot of people have, I know I do, is just the general inertia of it, right? So if you've spent time not exercising, there's that period of time where you just hate it, right? And then you get to a point where, oh, this feels good. And you start to look forward to it.
Right.
And I had that with running where like I hated it. And then I started running and I started looking forward to it. But then I got busy and fell out of the routine. And then my mindset was, I don't want to go through that again. Like I know after a period of time, I'm going to eventually like it, but that first part just stinks. Do you have any tips for overcoming that just part that's awful to get you faster into I actually enjoy this?
Yeah. I think something a lot of people underestimate is that you're going to have to learn something new in a lot of cases. So working out is no different, but overcoming that mental hurdle, right? Of like, this is hard, this sucks. Understanding that you're in a learning phase, depending on how consistent you're going to be. If your consistency is going to look at like 1 or 2 days a week, then it's going to take you a little bit longer for your body and your mind to learn what this new movement, new program, this new routine is going to feel like for you. But for somebody who's going to incorporate 3 or 4 routines or exercises per week, they're going to adapt a little bit quicker generally, because it's not just your mental state that needs to adapt. It's also your physiological state, your nervous system, right? So maybe you're starting to do movements that you haven't done in a really long time, or maybe you've never done them. And so your neurological system also has to learn how to do some of those movements too. I was actually just this morning, my client that I was training, we did front squats for the first time. And so just getting that movement down and me explaining to her how your body has to adapt to the weight being on the front of your body rather than the back of your body, and the different engagements that you'll be experiencing and the adjustments that you have to make strictly because you've positioned the weight from your back to the front. And so we're always going to be learning. We're always going to be adapting. And the longer you can keep that consistency, the less you're going to have to relearn to adapt. And muscle memory is a thing. And that's whenever your neurological system can pick up, not maybe necessarily right where you left off if you had to take a break for a little bit, but it's going to remember like, oh, I've done this before. And so whenever you come back to your exercises, it's not going to be as hard from whenever you very first started out. And I think that's something else that a lot of people don't realize as well, because for some, that initial phase of just getting into a workout can be kind of scarring. Mentally, it's like, oh my God, I never want to go through that again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to remember, right? Because like, no, you don't, you don't want to have to do that again. So maybe that's going to help encourage you to keep that consistency. However, know and understand that your body does adapt, right? And that if you have to take a short break, it's learned that unless you've had like a major injury or something like that, you can come back to that in a better place than when you first started at square one.
That's good advice. I think the other big question that people have, especially this time of year, for those of us that maybe don't spend a lot of time in the gym, I think there's a lot of people that have kind of that gym anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Planet Fitness has made an entire workout campaign or marketing campaign all about that.
Not even campaign. They've built an entire business, corporation based off of feeling comfortable in a space.
Exactly. So from your perspective, for somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience in the gym and is anxious about going and like, oh, I'm out of shape and I'm going to go to a gym where there's just a bunch of people that are like really fit. What would be your advice to somebody who just wants to kind of dive in, but is a little bit scared about it?
I do touch on this at the end of the fitness module as well. There is, I don't want to say it's been a trend, but I've seen a few videos come up on Instagram that I think are actually really great. New exercisers going to the gym very early on and realizing that it's not a scary place, that the people there, people who are going to the gym are people who want to improve themselves. You're going there for the same thing. So you've already established a common ground with people who have entered into this same building that you did. So that can help alleviate some of the insecurity just from the get-go. After you start, know that everyone's had a first time, right? Everyone has started from square one at some point in their life. And there are going to be people there at the exact same time you are. They're doing the same thing. So that can help alleviate some more of that insecurity. And then also know that a lot of people aren't going to the gym to be social butterflies unless maybe they're going to those group classes. So everyone's generally like sticking to their lane and they're not paying much attention to anybody else. So a lot of those insecurities are just that. They are insecurities with more of yourself, not necessarily the environment that you're going into. If you do want to be more social, right? If you want to like burst through maybe some of that anxiety and you need structure, group classes are fantastic. You're going to have a trainer there. They're going to go through the movements. They're going to be watching everybody, not just honing in on you, right? But that can offer some safety and security in the movements that you are doing that might be brand new to you. And then generally you're going to get a pretty solid workout. I've done a few like strength group classes, yoga, of course, spin classes. There are some great trainers out there and they're going to push you and you will see results from those things. The great thing about fitness is that it's not linear. Right? You don't have to stick to one lane for your entire fitness journey. Just about everybody, they start in one place, right? Because you set an initial goal. And then once you've accomplished that goal, your goal is going to change again. And so maybe you start out with a more structured environment and then you move into something that is more independent because you've either outgrown that space or you just want to challenge yourself a little bit more outside of what that structure can offer you. So restarting, know that the gym is a place for learning, discovering, right? Becoming better. And then that there are tools inside of that entity that can help you start out and bring you consistency because those classes are going to be the same throughout the week, every week, right? And so you put that in your schedule. But us as aviators, most times our schedules are going to be different week to week, month to month, whatever, right? So maybe some of those structured group classes are not going to work as well. So something I would suggest, because I have been there and most aviators have been there, is to look at your schedule for the week, decide what days do I have that I can fit a workout in? Is it 20 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? Is it a full hour? What do you have available to you? Going back to that like time challenge, because it is just that. It is a challenge to be overcome. So this is how we're solving it. Identify those times that you're available. Pick 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. If 1 week you have 4 days, another week you have 2, okay, that's okay. It's fine. During those days that you choose you're going to do your workout, it's like, all right, how much time do I have? Do I have the time in the morning? Do I have it in the afternoon? Do I have it in the evening? Because when is my flight? And then a couple of different options that I like to do is either my workout's going to be set on a time base or it's going to be set on like a circuit base. And if you're going to do a circuit, it can be time based as well. But know that this is my workout time and I'm just going to smash it right here. Like, this is my time to work out, because in the grand scheme of things, your workouts are such a minuscule part of your day, your week, your year, even. And so all those missed workouts that you're not going to try to deliberately put into your schedule are going to add up much quicker than the ones that you do get into your schedule. And so planning, pre-plan, we pre-flight, right? We mission plan, we plan for everything else around our career. Why aren't we planning to put our workouts into our schedule too? And again, nobody needs to be doing a 2-hour workout anymore. Like, unless you're training for a bodybuilding competition, like that takes time. Yes. But generally aviators are not. So the workouts that you need can be done in 20, 30, 40, whatever minutes. So do that. Pick your days. Pick how long you want it to be, and that's going to be your workout. I used to plan a rest day into my week or a couple of rest days into my week, just depending on what my week looked like. But in the last couple of years, I've actually gotten away from doing that because I was realizing, well, Tuesdays and Thursdays are like my push-pull days or whatever, my upper body days. And then I have like 2 leg days, whatever, on these specific set days. Like, oh, if I have a flight and I had to be out to the flight line or like mission plans that take all day. Oh, well, I've missed that workout. Maybe if I can, then I'll push it off to another day. Or, oh, that's my designated rest day, so I'm just not going to do it this week. That takes away from getting those workouts in. So I have started doing is, all right, I know I'm going to get X amount of workouts in this week because this is my goals. If there is a day that comes up that I've had to maybe schedule other things into that day, then that just becomes my rest day. Or maybe some of my workouts get shortened and I already knew that was going to happen because I had to schedule something else. So don't try to use that time excuse for every single thing that pops up.
There was so much in what you said. A couple things I wanted to highlight because it kind of goes to show the difference between real life and social media, right? You talked about people going to the gym and the anxiety of going to the gym and what are people going to think and everybody's going to stare at me. And so many people, myself included, see like reels and stuff of people recording in the gym and I mean, I'm not saying I think a lot of it's real, but it's very easy to believe that some of that stuff is real. And you're just like, I don't want to be a part of that. But then to hear from someone like you who goes to the gym regularly and experiences that culture and things like that, and you say, generally everybody minds their own business and stays in their own lane and they're helpful if you need something, like the dichotomy between those two versions of reality is huge. So I think for a lot of people sitting here going, I'm afraid to go to the gym or anxious to go to the gym because of this, I think hearing that out loud is extremely helpful to a lot of people. So I appreciate you bringing that part of it up. The other thing I heard you say was the idea that, like, yes, you're going to miss workouts and counting those workouts versus the workouts missed versus the workouts made, giving yourself the grace to say, I won this one. I may have skipped a couple, but I won this one. I think that that's another really good mindset for people to kind of focus on. Your
one workout, whether you get it in or you don't get it in, that singular workout is not going to make or break your health overall. Because we're talking long term. You can't just do one workout and then you change your entire life, right? It's just, that's just not how it works. Unfortunately, I wish. So understanding, and again, that pre-planning, that foresight of like, I've got a really busy week next week. So I'm really going to get in my workouts this week. just so that I can help maintain the feeling of some kind of consistency within my schedule. Because aviation's chaotic. It is all over the place. You never know what's going to happen. Just having foresight and pre-plan and understand what your goals are and where you want your workouts to bring you.
And in that pre-planning and of course the importance of routine and everything else, I mean, you talked about this already, but one of the things that I hear, first and foremost, me personally, I am not a morning person. So the idea of getting up at 4:35 in the morning to go exercise before a flight, never going to happen. Never.
Yeah.
And so for me, especially when I'm on the road, I will stay up late. I'd rather go for a run at 10 o'clock at night than get up and go for a run at 4 or 5 in the morning. Does it matter? Like from a body standpoint, I mean, I understand it can affect sleep for some people, but from an exercise fitness standpoint, does time of day actually make a difference? Or is it just the movement of the body that makes the difference?
Yeah, I mentioned that as well. And so if you're going to try to force yourself into something that you're not going to be able to be consistent with, don't waste your time trying to force yourself into that. If you know, John, you are not a morning person, well, I guess your workouts aren't happening in the morning, and that is fine. That's fine. If you know that you will be better off and make more progress doing them in the evening or the nighttime, if you have a workday ahead of you, just understand that maybe your energy levels will be a little bit lower, but maybe also because you're more of a night person, it'll be just fine. That won't be a struggle for you. So just know yourself first. Sometimes my workouts are in the morning, sometimes they're in the afternoon, whatever. It just depends on what I have going on that day. And that's fine too. If your workouts, if you are so set in stone, my workouts can only happen at 6 a.m. and that is it. You might be setting yourself up for a little bit of disappointment down the road. So yeah, a time of day matters to you and your schedule and you as a person. Yes. And that's
not missing out on getting buff by not getting up at 6 in the morning.
You're not missing out.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear.
Not missing out.
I hear us really circling around that massive excuse that you keep talking about, which is like that all or nothing thinking that people get. And we've talked about it with social media and all those that people, I see it in my yoga students as well. Well, I didn't meditate today. So, oh, well, I missed the 6 a.m. meditation. Done. I guess I have to wait till tomorrow. But that all or nothing thinking is really destructive because it's actually taking us away from our fitness goals in this situation. I hear you consistently sort of asking, like, are my workouts serving me in their duration, in their time, and in their planning? But I think most people go to fitness like, I should, in quotes, work out because I need to, if you're a guy, be more buff. If you're a woman, I need to be thinner. We have all these external reasons why we're doing it, which, man, then that leads to shame. Then it leads to avoidance. Then when we miss the workout, we feel bad about ourselves. And it's completely the opposite of what I hear you saying, which is like, this is for health, longevity, performance, so I can feel good, so I can do the things I love for as long as I want to. So I love that like whole reframing that you're doing around this, which is that it's all learning. It's all just and it's learning about yourself and about new things. I think that's a really crucial reframing. Along that, though, I have a little question. I want to circle back to the gym thing. Yeah. One thing that helped me with the gym culture get over that fear of, going to the gym as a woman, especially strength training, was really intimidating because I'm like, I don't know what to do with the squat rack. I had a trainer for like 6 months and she taught me how to use everything. So I would get really confident, and consistently I have to ask guys to help me set up like the squat rack and things because it's kind of high, and I'll just say, hey, can you help me load that side? Once you get over that hump, it's easy, but having another empowered woman with me like at my side really helped. And now I love it. You can't keep me out of the gym because it is a very, very happy, supportive place. But I want to ask your question on this, though, because some people can't afford a gym or they're not near a gym. Like when I'm up in our place up in Maine, it's really far from a gym, 45-minute drive. So we construct a home gym. What are your recommendations for setting up some just basic equipment at home that's not going to break the bank, but where we could do some, I'm thinking strength training. Like, what are your recommendations for a home gym, slow roll, getting started?
Me.
For our podcast listeners, she has every dumbbell. Oh, I see an exercise bike back there.
Yeah, so I have a resistance bike that I actually did get during COVID because everyone and their mom was buying, home equipment during COVID. But like resistance bands was huge for me. This resistance bike was also huge. Smaller equipment wise, getting weights that are adjustable is going to save you a lot of space. So I have adjustable dumbbells that was one of the first things that I bought. It goes like up to 25 pounds. And only recently did I buy more dumbbells for my home just because I've surpassed that 25-pound restriction really for a lot of different movements. So I was like, you know what? I just went on Facebook Marketplace and there was a gym. This is a really, really great way to get weights, by the way, without going to like a sporting goods store and paying full price or something. There are some gyms maybe in your area, pull up on Facebook Marketplace and they'll be selling a lot of their free weights if they're replacing them, just getting new weights and stuff. So I went and I bought a few different sets of dumbbells from them and it was cheap compared to what you're going to pay at the store. So that's one way you can go about getting weights for your home. But I mean, we're also talking to some bougie aviators. So if you want to go, if you want to go out there and just buy a whole entire set, feel free, go at it. I don't have the space currently for like a full rack setup. Otherwise, that would have been the route that I went for sure. So don't get me wrong, but adjustable weights for your home, that can be really good. If I'm not a runner, I used to be, but after like my knees went out in college basically, and that was before I ever even started strength training, before I started my journey in fitness at all. I also started with a trainer at the gym because like I needed it. I didn't know what was wrong with me and I had never been in a gym before. So I started out with a trainer too for about 3 months. And after that, I just like went all out. So that's a really good way to approach it too. And if you go try out the gym, you're like, meh, I'm not feeling it, and you do want to start getting some home stuff, you've at least had that gym experience so that maybe some of the things that you did enjoy doing. Maybe you're not going to go, buy a full-on machine or something like that, but if you wanted to, you could, because you know what you like and what benefits you're looking for. There's tons of body weight movements that people underestimate that will challenge themselves. I feel like there's a lot of people that be like, oh, body weight squats, that's not going to accomplish my goals. Maybe not, but if you are just in a position where, again, you don't have a gym for a week or two or whatever, then there's a lot of those body weight movements that you can modify to make more challenging, whether that is modifying the range of motion, whether that's modifying how many reps you're doing, how many sets and reps that you're doing, right? You're really, really high volume. Then those are things that can add to that challenge of these movements. Push-ups, right? A lot of women have trouble doing push-ups. It's a movement that's more challenging for us generally. And there's so many variations of push-ups you can do to target more specific muscle bodies. So things like that.
Awesome advice. Thank you. I feel like if I went over to like lunch at your house, you'd be like, no, I'm sorry. First, you have to do a circuit of squats, lunges, and overhead presses. Then you get to eat.
No, I'd be like, you need a snack? I would offer you a snack first.
Oh,
I need a snack.
So one of the major trends for 2026 they're seeing, especially in the gyms, because they're restructuring and things, and you guys have already mentioned it. I mean, strength training is in, cardio is out. Can strength training really take over for cardio, or is it still important that you do both?
Both are absolutely important. What I will say is that there have been a lot more studies happening. It started a long time ago. Publications have been released, but even more research is being put into the benefits of strength training in a cardiac capacity. So you can do, and a lot of the programs that I've built, they hit that strength and cardio or endurance realm for both of them. So if you're going to do my dumbbell program, because Geeta, you ran the dumbbell program.
I did that one.
So you noticed, right, that you are progressively increasing your weight throughout the program, but you're also increasing at some point the amount of circuits that you do. With that and the reps that I have in there, it's a pretty high rep program.
There was also, if I remember, a decrease of time of rest too.
Yes, there's also
That's
a decrease of rest.
Come on, I remember that. I remember the decrease of rest in between the sets.
No.
Because that cardiac wise, that's when you're catching your breath and you can feel your heart. You can feel the heart working.
So you are challenging your muscular endurance. You are challenging your heart rate endurance, and you're also challenging your strength within that. And because whenever you're doing cardio, generally a lot of people who are doing cardio are doing more steady state cardio, like going for a jog or a run on the elliptical for half an hour, whatever. In various types of strength training, whether it's HIIT training, circuit training, regular lifting, strength training, your heart rate is going to be more on like a bell curve or like a roller coaster. So it's going to increase and decrease and increase and decrease. And that challenge for your heart has been shown to be potentially more beneficial than steady state cardio for your cardiac improvement. Because think of it like your muscle body as well. Like you're going to challenge it so that it grows stronger, and then you're going to give it a break so it can repair. And then you're going to challenge it to grow stronger, and then you're going to let it repair and, get some of those energy stores back in there. Same thing for your heart. You're going to challenge it to work really hard. You're going to give it a break. You're going to challenge it to work really hard. You're going to give it a break. And throughout that routine and your consistency, it's just going to get better and better and more efficient at putting that work in and then recovering, and putting that work in and then recovering. So that's really what we want to look at when we're training, is how efficient am I making my body? How efficient am I making my heart? And how efficient am I making my muscles? And so strength training is really great for both. Not just because I say it, but because the science says it. And whenever when you're doing like strict cardio, you're not really building muscle strength. Depending on what kind of cardio you're doing, of course. So if you're doing like an elliptical, you can add resistance to that, of course, but you're doing the same movement repetitively over and over and over again throughout that. So you're not challenging your muscles to a capacity where you are doing a what's called progressive overload. So you're not continuing to add weight to that muscle body in order to challenge it enough to become stronger. You're really just training it in that specific movement to get really good at doing that movement.
One of my masters in martial arts used to say, you want to be like a machine? Go work out on a machine. You want to be a resilient human? Do body weight squats with me. And he would then proceed to kick our butt with 1,000,001 squats. What I hear you saying too, though, it's like you're training resiliency, which is like a big key word for aging. I mean, I'm 53, and what I found doing your dumbbell program and the program I'm doing now, which is another progressive overload series, is that it seems to train my muscles to be more efficient, so that like the other day we had to push the airplane out of the hangar. It was really, really icy. It was cold. And it goes 1, 2, 3, push. And in the past I would like push and it was like nothing happened. Yeah. I was like not helping.
Now you're just pushing it out the hangar.
Now I'm like Thor in there. No, not at all. But it trained my muscles to kind of like be able to switch on when I asked them to, which is something that I noticed really decreasing after I went through menopause. It was like my explosive strength just went away, not because of anything I did, just of the switch of the biochemicals in my body. So that progressive overload and resistance training that has that cardiovascular aspect, I feel like mentally and physically trains that muscle to be primed when you need it, i.e. in an emergency or on the flight deck or pushing a plane out of a hangar. The muscles then can respond because that's what we want them to do in everyday life. Rarely are we like at marathon state in everyday life. More often we're sitting, then we need to move, then we need to sit. We need to be able to be more reactive and resilient in that way.
Since you mentioned that, I'll kind of elaborate a little bit on maybe like a sensation. I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but especially for new strength trainers, if you're very consistent, you can make progress very quickly and early on in your strength training journey. Strength doesn't always look like bigger muscles. It doesn't always look like you have physically even gotten like significantly stronger. Sometimes the journey of strength training can also look like I just have more energy. It means that you're moving better because your neurological pathways are able to engage that movement at this point. So whenever you said that you can just turn your muscles on, that's your neurological pathways reacting appropriately to that movement and that load that you are trying to move. And so I'm sure you absolutely did get stronger. There's no way you ran through that double program without getting stronger. But also you have just improved those neurological pathways for that muscle engagement, for those movements, and just your day-to-day for what you've been doing. And so your body's more responsive to the things that you do want to do.
Love it. I tell myself that all the time before I go into the gym. While I'm walking in there, I'm having that feeling John was saying, we're like, why am I doing this? It's so cold. It's the middle of winter in New England. I stroke. My body really does not like the cold weather. I feel a serious depletion of energy. And I'll tell myself, I'm training my neurological system to be stronger to handle life. I don't care how much weight I push or pull today. It's not about if I look as good as the 20-year-old in the spandex. Right. I'm training my neurological system to be strong, healthy, resilient. And that gets me over the hump of attaching it to an external outcome and just knowing that I'm training for life, really.
Yeah. And there will absolutely be some days where you do that same movement. Like I just did this last week, but I'm like 5 or 10 pounds less, on this movement that I'm doing than I did last week. And there's so many factors that go into that. Is your energy level the same that day? Are you working at the same time that day? Have you eaten today? What was it that you ate that was different, than last week? There's so many factors that come into play. And so don't beat yourself up too hard. If you show up to the gym, it's not like you're just going to turn around and walk out. Like you're there.
Speak for yourself.
John's like, I have left. I'll just give it a side. I have absolutely, I've been in that same place mentally, and like I'll show up and just be like, I don't want to move things today. And I'll just go do like a pretty hard or a really good cardio session instead, because I just haven't been in a mental state to be like, I'm going to safely squat, or I'm going to safely do XYZ movement because I'm simply just extremely low on energy, or my mind's just not right. And so I will still be there, but I will still absolutely do something that I will challenge myself in. Or maybe I'll change my workout for that day a little bit. Maybe I'll take like 1 or 2 of my workouts out so that I know I have less I'm going to be doing, but in that shorter list of things I'm going to be doing, I'm going to do those harder and get done quicker because I will have put that work in, right? My volume for those workouts will still be there and I will have still done them, but I won't be spending, an hour here. Instead, maybe I'll be here for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And just adjusting yourself that way a little bit can help your mindset as well. Because it's like you have these daunting things on your plate, but it's like, you know what? Let me just change 1 or 2 things. Maybe that is going to get me through this workout, and it's still going to be a very good workout.
Love it. One of my trainers said to me once, your muscle doesn't care the number on the weight. Your muscle doesn't care. Your muscle recognizes some effort. So make a little effort and then pat yourself on the back and go have a latte and you're done.
Right.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up, because this is kind of a perfect segue into sort of our next topic here, and that's just the ways of burning calories and the difference between burning calories and fat. I mean, we talked in the pre-show chat about the idea that, again, when we're talking the difference between cardio and strength training, I go for a run. Everything that I've read lately basically says, well, that run just burned that bowl of cereal I ate for breakfast. Like, I didn't actually do anything. I mean, my muscles may be getting a little bit more strong, but am I actually affecting my overall body composition, or am I just basically burning the last meal that I ate? So what's your thoughts on that, and how does all that work?
So I think that that's a mindset and a conception that a lot of people have. And unless you are tracking your calories, you're probably not going to know. You're not going to know what you're burning, how much you're burning, and whether or not the amount of work that you just put in for your workout is equal to or greater than the food that you've even consumed in your last meal. So during exercise, your body takes from your energy stores first, not even your fat stores, just the energy it has stored inside the muscle body, energy that is maybe within your bloodstream that is in the productive phase of turning into those energy stores aka glycogen. I do talk about this. I go deeper into it in the course. After you burn through those energy stores, that's when your body will start to tap in the stored fat as energy and start breaking that down. But it absolutely wants to go for the easier consumable energy before it's going to tap into its stores and then have to process that to turn it into energy. So the meal that you just ate like that day, that's not going to be the food that you're not going to enter into a deficit necessarily from your workout. Your body will most likely and is probably going to use some of the calories from a meal that you ate maybe a few hours earlier in the day, because that's going to be the food that will be accessible right after your body has gone through that stored glycogen in the muscle body primarily. So it's going to use some of that, but not a ton of it. Again, some of it might not be in a phase that is usable for energy yet. I also go into talking about heart rate zones in the, so lesson 5? Maybe lesson 5. But whenever you're versus cardio, strength training, whatever you're doing, your heart will enter into different zones. If you're doing steady state cardio, you're generally going to move through a couple of the first heart rate zones and then stay. That's why it's called steady state, right? You're going to be in a steady heart rate zone. Strength training, the same thing, except you're going to you can peak into like a very high heart rate zone at some times and then come back into some other heart rate zones. And depending on your conditioning, whenever you're strength training, that heart rate can spike really high and then come back down low. And you can kind of, even during a rest period, you can sit in a fat burning heart rate zone while you're waiting to recover and let your muscles recoup some of those energy stores for your next lift. So whenever you are working out, don't think of it so much as I'm working out the calories I just ate today. Not necessarily the case. And to go back into the calorie tracking portion of this, if you are not in a deficit with or without your workout, if you are not in a calorie deficit, your body is not going to want to tap into those fat stores because it doesn't need to. You haven't ever opened that door for it to need to grab some extra stuff out of its energy pantry, if you will. So it's just going to keep food in. All right, I'll store some of this as quick energy. And if there's extra, it's just going to go back into that pantry, right? I'm just going to keep stuffing things into there. Track your calories first. We talked about this a lot in the first episode on nutrition that we did. And then figure out how many calories your workout is burning. Generally, and this is not for, this is not across the board, everybody, but generally like a 45-minute to an hour workout will burn anywhere from like 250 to maybe like 400 or 500 calories for people. It sounds like a really big window because it kind of is, but that's a general window that some people will burn. So keep in mind that if you don't know how many calories you're consuming, you might be over-consuming that many calories or more already. So even though you start working out more, if you don't adjust the way that you're eating or pay attention to the way that you're eating, your exercises are going to offer you benefits. They absolutely will. Whether they're the benefits that you were expecting to see immediately might be a little bit different.
So that 1,000-calorie slice of pizza is probably not a great plan.
I love pizza.
I love pizza too. Chicago style, thin crust, Detroit style, whatever. I don't care. Pizza.
I mean, I will say that your body is going to take that pizza crust and easily convert it into some of that glycogen. Because again, from the nutrition module, right? And I think we talked about this in the first episode that we did. But like carbs are the most easily accessible food source for our body to break down into that energy, into glycogen. So no matter what kind of carb it is, if it's just bread, sugar, fruit, they all get broken down in the same type of sugars that are going to get used for energy. So that's your body's preferred source. Not to say a pizza a day is going to make your workout great. Like that's not going to be a new saying. But I mentioned this too, but like demonizing certain types of food like pizza, you just have to be mindful of how you're eating, how much of it you're eating, and what are your habits. What are your habits around the food? What are your habits around your workout routine? And are you doing things that are going to accomplish your goals in a healthy way? So doing things that are sustainable, respecting your body and what you're putting into it, and creating that longevity overall. You can still eat pizza, John.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And I don't want to steal the thunder of your course, but for those listening, you do talk about, from a performance aspect, especially for pilots, it's very tempting to go into that calorie deficit, which, some calorie deficit isn't necessarily a bad thing, as you say, but you also talk about what can happen to your clarity of thinking and your sleep and all of those things when you go into a severe deficit.
Yeah.
So for those pilots listening that may be tempted to go that route, there are some sort of mental performance negatives that come into play, not even associated with all of the body negatives that come into play when you just don't eat. So I'll let everybody watch your course for those answers, but just know that there's some significant performance negatives as well that come along with that. The other thing, and we talked a little bit about this in the last one, so we won't harp on it too much, but I mentioned to you one of the big things that I realized in taking your course was getting into a little bit of the nutrition and the supplemental stuff. You talk about protein, and I think everybody knows that protein, especially now, I think that was a big 2025 thing, was everybody was on the protein train. I never knew how much you actually needed, because I remember from your course, it's just an insane amount.
He literally called me and was like, so I'm on this module of Lashae's course and oh my God, I'm not eating enough protein. You really rocked his world, man. You rocked his world.
Don't make it sound so daunting. Yeah, so I break this down, I feel like, very well in the course. And so I go over sedentary adults, what your protein requirements might look like, active adults, what your protein requirements might look like, and then also older adults, because I feel like that's very important to talk about within aviation. We have such a wide age range and just also different goals. So I wanted to really hit on those different types of individuals. The protein requirements will vary, but the good news that makes things a little bit easier to remember is that active adults and also older adults have a generally same protein requirement. And there is a window to this. So depending on how much you're working out, your goals, different factors like that, your protein requirements, again, for the active and for the older, could be anywhere from 0.7 or 8 grams of protein up to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And so that's a window, right? And if you're not exactly hitting that specific level of protein, if you have a higher protein goal, then if it's you have 1 or that 1.2, it can be obviously more challenging to fit in more protein as opposed to somebody who has that goal. They're just I'm a 0.7 or 8, I'm good. The variation between that window in your protein day to day is not going to be a huge deal. If you're not hitting that 1.0 every single day, it's okay. It's all right. Your muscles will still do their thing. Your body will still do its thing. It will still break those proteins down into amino acids and do what they need to do with them. I go in depth in this in the course, but just that easy target is 1 gram per pound of body weight. And that's just an easy number to remember. But you do have that window of opportunity, if you will. And the reason that obviously active individuals need more protein is so that their muscles can recover. The reason that older individuals need more protein is so their body just gets a minimum amount of protein to break down and absorb and use for their daily needs, for their workout needs, stuff like that. Because as we age, then it becomes more challenging for our bodies to break our foods down efficiently and absorb them and utilize them how our body needs to. So that's why those protein requirements are generally the same for active adults and older adults. A lot of the studies, when they're talking about older adults, they're talking about people who are 55 to 65 plus, just kind of depending on what article you're reading and what their test groups were. The article that I referenced specifically and talk more about in the course, their group was 65 plus, which is the new retirement age. So it's hey, we have that really big window in aviation right now for pilots, especially in the airline world, where you have like really young pilots now, and then you have the older pilots. So there's a gap kind of in the middle. Yeah, I mean, that's just like, don't make it sound daunting, John. Jeez, people scared.
So I looked at it, and I'm somewhere between 170 and 180 pounds, depending on the day. And I've got my little jar of protein. I looked at the little scooper, and it was like 30 grams. I'm like, oh my God, that's like nothing compared to 180 grams.
But like, think about the rest of your day, right? You have an entire day. God, I have to eat 6 of these protein shakes to get, like, no, you're eating other things with protein in them. So,
which I guess goes back to the whole, I have to keep track of things. Fine.
Yeah. So like, just keeping track. And again, I talk about this in the course too, like, tracking is not life. Right? You should not be tracking your food every single day for the rest of your life. I surely don't. And most people do not. And you don't need to be. Come back to it every once in a while when you feel like you've derailed a bit, so like, I come back to tracking when I feel like my energy levels are significantly lower than what they should be. Like, all right, I'm not doing something right here, or I'm physique wise, I'm just not seeing what I want to be seeing. I feel like maybe I'm at a plateau. I'll go back to tracking just to reset and relook at the foods that I'm eating. And then sometimes I'm just like, I'm not eating enough, honestly. Other times I'm not eating enough of the right types of macros. So that being said, let's circle back. Track your calories, track your macros, just so that you get an idea of what those, we'll stick with John's, what 180 grams of protein in a day looks like. Even if you're below that, that's fine. Like, you're still going to get benefits from like that 0.7, that 0.8 grams, so that would bring you down to like 150-ish, so things that maybe seem more manageable. Start there. Like, you don't have to start like, oh, this is what social media says. I got to get that 1 gram per pound, or else like, I'm just not going to see any results. No, absolutely not. You will see results in just starting better habits.
Man, I love all the tracking stuff. When I was a perfectionist, I used to only track to show how perfect I was. Right? Like, I would do whatever fitness thing I was doing, right? Because I've been in this game a long time. Whatever the thing was of the 90s or the 2000s, I would track to meet the specifications of that program I was on to a T, right? Like, that was, but now that I'm 53, I track for information. I'm like, what is actually happening? What am I actually doing? And then I look at it at the end of the day and go like, okay, that was a less than stellar effort. Tomorrow I could probably add in these 2 snacks and that would bump me closer. Like, it's a mindset shift though, but I can see it's, again, in my own habits in the past, I would track to that like perfectionistic all or nothing standard, right? It's either fitness all the way or I'm a failure. And I think that's where people can get tripped up with all this. Like, I'm either a hot mess or I'm buff. And what I love about this whole approach is like, just treat it like information and exploration and education, just like we do everything in aviation. And it changes, it makes it way more fun. Because when I upped my protein, I was shocked too, John. I started upping my protein last August. So just before your course dropped, Lashae. And on the advice of a nutritionist, I was supposed to get up to 140 grams. And I was like eating like 70 grams a day. And I was like, how? But over tracking, not trying to track to meet 140, but just observing what I was doing and making small changes. Now I can feel when I haven't gotten enough protein without even needing to track. I can tell because I paid attention to cues along the way. So I love this whole approach of it's just information and education, and kind of play with it and personalize it for yourself rather than meeting the buff body metric of social media algorithm.
Don't take your numbers personally. Like, you are making them work for you.
I really like the underlying thread of how this interview has gone. I think that just the idea of, we keep referencing positives and negatives that come from social media. And I think that just floods people's minds so much on a daily basis, that this interview referencing a lot of those things, I think, is really important. I've got one last question, and I want to get back into, we'll wrap it up with apps and wearables. But the other big trend that has been going on through the last last year or so, I think, is the whole aspect of creatine. And there's a lot of differing opinions on creatine, whether it's beneficial, whether it can help you, harm you, all of those types of things. What's your thoughts? Do you take creatine? Do you endorse it? Do you what's your opinion?
Well, I don't endorse anything yet, but if any company would like me,
Yes.
I'm available. I'm available to test your product. Potentially. I don't know. I'll have to do some research. Ironically, I was actually just talking to my client this morning about creatine because she literally asked me the same thing. So yeah, I take creatine. There are cycles where if I run out of creatine, I haven't got around to buying more, then I just won't be taking it. But if I have it, I will take it. Creatine is not something that's going to make or break your workout by any means. Again, I think that there are some supplements that people can have a tendency to use as a crutch, as an excuse to maybe do or not do something, right? I take creatine because I do notice a difference in my energy level throughout my workout. It's a little bit more sustained. I don't feel as much of a drop off like halfway through or towards the end of my workouts, whenever I do take it. But again, it's not a make or break. And creatine is, other than protein, it's the most studied supplement on the market because there has been so much stuff just said about it throughout history, honestly, like basically throughout like the 80s and up till now. So tons and tons and tons of research. I do talk about it in the course, and I talk about what it's doing inside of our bodies, things that it gets confused with, like that creatinine. I don't know if you remember that portion of it.
I do.
Yes, beautiful. And just some of the negative effects that have come out in media outlets as like scare factors that are absolutely just false. So thousands of studies done on creatine, there haven't been any findings of significant negative side effects to people taking creatine. Unless you have like kidney failure, liver failure, stuff like that, like it's absolutely safe to take. And I mean, I'm a proponent of it, but I'm not saying that you absolutely have to take creatine because it's a game changer. Like it's good at what it does. But if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. It is cheap though. Like it's like the cheapest supplement that is actually proven to work on the market.
It's funny. I went and got a physical this week, and I actually brought it up with my physician because, they always say, if you're going to take anything, consult your physician. And I said, well, I'm already here. I might as well. And I asked him kind of the same thing because the big scare factor that they reference is, like you said, sort of kidney issues, and it can overtax your kidneys. And I won't spoil the information from your course, but he went into some of the misconceptions, the differences between creatine and the creatinine and how that's measured in kidney functions. And ultimately he said, if you want to take it, take it. If you don't worry about it. Like can it help? Yes. But like you said, is it going to, turn you into Arnold Schwarzenegger? Probably not.
Absolutely not. And I think one of the biggest misconception is like creatine helps you build muscle. That's not what it does. But just understand what you're taking. Yeah. Understand what you're taking and what it's actually doing for you, and don't waste your money if you don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. And understand that, and we won't go into too deep of this either, but we did talk about it in the pre-show chat. Just understand that certain things can interact with other things. So if you're taking a lot of different supplements, sometimes, they may react positively together and work better. In other cases, they may mix and maybe not be as healthy for you as you intended. So know what you're taking. And if you're taking a bunch of things, consult somebody who knows what they're talking about to make sure that what you're taking is appropriate.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times, like your doctor's not, if you are deficient, let's start there. If you are deficient in something, which is kind of the only reason that you would need to supplement with a vitamin, otherwise you're going to get it from your food, right? That's one of the reasons we eat, is to get the nutrients that we need from our food. Unless you're deficient in something, your doctor's not going to prescribe you just like one thing, right? Because most vitamins, most micronutrients, they need to be paired with something in order to perform the function that they do inside of our bodies. So for example, like the protein that we eat that gets broken down to amino acids, those amino acids have to bind to other amino acids, to vitamins, in order to perform the functions that they need to do. So, for example, Collagen. I talk about this in the course too. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, I promise, but just as an example, collagen, people taking their collagen supplements, which is a completely incomplete protein. Your body's not going to take that and just be like, you need prettier hair. Let's go do that. Absolutely not. That's not what's going to happen. It will take some of those amino acids and bind to other things for functions that your body needs them for. Your body needs vitamin C in order to produce collagen. So if you are just not eating a whole food diet in the first place and getting all the nutrients that you need to make up for some of these third or fourth priority things like growing your hair faster, regrowing your nails, that kind of stuff, your body's not going to prioritize that. So in talking about supplementation and things that should and shouldn't be taken together, those are some considerations that people can think about whenever they're purchasing their supplements or asking questions about what maybe they're considering taking or what they're already taking. Like I said before we started recording, there are some supplements that shouldn't be taken together. And that's something that your doctor knows, of course.
Perfect. Yeah. Always consult somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is if I take vitamin C, I'm going to have flowing locks like yours.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to
start. And that 170 grams of protein. Right. Daunting 170.
John's going to be back with like a man bun and like the muscle shirt.
John's going to have a mullet because he still needs to look professional at work. So
That's right. That's right.
Mullet. So for these recordings, yeah.
As we wind this down, and I don't, we kind of talked about this in the first interview. So again, for those that didn't listen to it, go back and check the first one, and you reference it in your course.
Listen to it though.
But apps and wearables. I mean, it's things that there's constantly new ones coming out. Mm-hmm. There's ones that people stop listening to. Are there any thoughts that you have that you want to share in addition to what you've already talked about in terms of apps and wearables and what the benefits are? I mean, I know the big thing that people say, and we reference this as well when you talk about food tracking is great until it creates anxiety within a person, because some people look at that and then all of a sudden it becomes a negative. So there's got to be that happy medium between understanding where you are and then focusing on it to a point of anxiousness.
There's a lot of different ways that you can approach this. If you're a tech person, if you really just want to dive in, like you want the watch and the app and the all the different types of tracking for my nutrition and my exercise and my sleep and all the things, right? What are my oxygen levels? Go for it. Is all that needed? No, absolutely not. I have a Garmin. I let my watch track my heart rate, my steps, my workouts. I let it do that. And then I just have it connected to my app that I currently use for my overall nutrition, like calories mostly. So I use the same app for tracking my nutrition that my watch is connected to. So if you just want to use an app or you just want to use a watch, that's fine. Finding an app that your watch can connect to will be really easy because you just sync them and you never have to transfer that information into the app that you're using. So whenever you do want to come back to your calorie and overall tracking, it's already going to calculate those figures in for you. So that's just one less thing that you have to do, which is really, really nice. So app-wise, I mean, so many apps connect to Garmin, Apple, Fitbit, and some of these watches out there. It's this ring. It's this new ring. There's different brands now.
Oura ring.
Oura. Yeah, they have their own app, and you can track your nutrition and your workouts and your sleep and everything in there. Same with Whoop. Whoop is another one that does that. I mean, and then of course, Apple and Garmin, they both have their own apps as well. That not necessarily so much nutrition, macro tracking wise, but all these companies exist. So what do you want to use? However, in identifying all of the things that I'm bringing to aviation through education, my programs, my recipes, tracking, wearables, like we were just talking about, I'm working on building a platform that brings all of it together.
Ooh.
So
we can track it with Lashae.
Surprise! Yeah. So you'll have access to your course. your flight crew health course, you'll have access to the community chats that I'm building, whether you're a pilot, a flight attendant, you are in the military as a flight crew member, all the different communities that exist within aviation. You'll have access to that. You'll have access to tracking your calories. You'll have access to my workouts and other workouts that I just continue to build, whether they're standalone or full-on programs. And then also just tons and tons of recipes. So I'm working on combining all of this, and also the airport meal portal that I've built too. So
this is the Mile High Health Club empire you're creating.
All for you.
Love it.
So,
I love it.
The course is available now. Of course, you can go get it. You can take it. You have it for life. It's yours. And I'm just going to keep building you things and providing you with these things just to make it so much easier.
I think that's awesome. Like so much of what we said today, there's so much noise out there, and being able to find a trusted source who is teaching you information for your particular lifestyle, but who's also giving you the information so you can make the decisions for yourself. That's rare. So I really appreciate that part of the work that you're doing. I think it's really easy to do a clickbait video promising things or using fear as a motivator to get people to click on the link. It's much harder to do what you're doing, which is to provide this really depth of resource and actionable strategies that we love here in the Calling Cockpit.
Love it.
Are really helping people parse through the information, but making it their own. That's really great work. It's really important that you're doing it. So thank you.
It is my pleasure. Part of the community aspect of what I'm building, I'll also be hosting weekly calls. So this will be part of like the membership portion of it, just so that we can go more in depth on certain topics. People can ask their questions real time, but they'll all be recorded. So they'll be available, because again, our schedules are chaotic. So you can't always make like a very specific, like 30-minute call in the week. But you can always refer back to it. And I'm going to have a aviation health professional on once a month as well, so that their expertise can also be referred to and ask them questions as well. And then surprise number 2, I, as of this week, am now a master's in public health student.
Hey.
So I'm just gonna keep bringing things to the aviation community for health and bridge these gaps, provide information, and just continue making this a healthier industry and a safer industry to work in.
Love it.
Admirable. Very admirable. And
yeah,
we appreciate you spending the time with us today. You answered a lot of my questions and I definitely got a lot out of this. I hope our listeners did too. I'm sure they did. And I hope you'll come back. So milehighhealthclub.life.
That's it.
Is the website.
Yes.
You can get all the information on your course and your other valuable resources. You've come up on several other interviews that we've done because the airport guide, the airport restaurant guide or eating guide is just such a huge resource for a lot of pilots. So we try to make sure that people understand that that's available. Yeah. And so, again, thank you so much for joining us, Lashae.
Yeah. No, thank you guys so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the next one.
Listeners, I hope you loved that interview with Lashae as much as John and I did. That's why we've had her back on the show twice, because she really gives so much concrete advice. And this is where I love to step back as a wellness practitioner and someone who's sort of lived in this world really since high school and been teaching it for about 30 years. Is sometimes my students get overwhelmed with all the information, like how much protein should I be eating? And I'm not lifting weights. Maybe I should do that. And they start to kind of go on like brain fry overload that it all feels like too much. And I had a great instructor once that was helping me rehab from a foot injury. And I was getting really frustrated with a lot of these things because I couldn't do a lot of the things. And I said, I don't have any balance anymore. She said, time out, stop right there. She's like, you're probably never going to have balance in life with your diet, with your fitness. What you can think about instead is just move towards balance. And somehow that reframe has stuck with me ever since then. She was a great PT. She was a personal trainer and a Pilates coach. And she said, you're just always constantly recalibrating to move towards balance. And that took off the pressure for me of like needing to feel like I have to be perfect. I have to do all of these things as a wellness practitioner. Just move yourself towards balance. So I'd encourage listeners, just think of something Lashae said to you that resonated, that sounded fun, and maybe easy to do and move towards that. Because the other thing that happens is it starts to feel prescriptive and like you have to, you should do all of these things. And then it carries all this weight and heaviness with it. And who needs another project because life is hard enough? What if we just added in things that felt really good and then we get a little momentum with it that way and then we can keep adding things on? So move towards balance, pick something that sounds easy and fun. When you get that going in a good groove, then you can add a little bit more onto it. That's kind of my big takeaway from that. I do want to say one other little thing about protein. I love eating more protein. It's been a game changer, honestly, in my life. And I know people say game changer about a lot of things, but really it has been for me. It's really helped me to have a lot more energy. It's helped me to get rid of a lot of the sugar cravings I have because I will eat sugar at the drop of a hat. If there's cake in the room, look out. I'm on the way there. But here's the thing. Keep in mind that these trends come and go. So if you see protein haunting you everywhere, they have protein coffee at Starbucks. Have you seen this?
I have, yeah.
I mean, they're putting it in everything now. So I encourage you, take Lashae's course. Determine your own protein needs and decide ways that work for you in your life to get it in, rather than thinking about it as a trend that I, quote, have to eat more protein. Maybe that's the case for you. Maybe it's not. Just because it's the latest it thing, remember that your body looks at things in a holistic manner. Your body looks at carbohydrates and fats. It looks at all that macronutrition. Your body doesn't care. It needs fuel. So figure out where all of this works for you and understand that it's also a trend now. So if you see it everywhere, please don't feel pressure. Move towards balance, find out where you are and what you actually need for your life, and filter it through the lens of your own intelligence.
Well, and it's funny because there's a podcast that I listen to that talks about different things moving through the course of the year and what to expect and trends and things like that. And we're actually on the backside of the protein train already. They're saying that fiber is the next protein. So look for the fiber blended protein shakes. So I'm sure that won't end with disastrous results. But I completely agree. And when I was editing this podcast, I was really trying to find a way to get Lashae to say eat more pizza, because she did say the word pizza.
She did.
but I figured that was probably not the right move, although maybe I'll save that soundbite for another day.
But it all works in concert, right? I have no problem eating pizza. I just eat around that, maybe throw in a breakfast salad from Jeffrey J.J. Madison that he talked about in his episodes. So, folks, I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Take what works for you. Really encourage you to check out Lashae's offerings. She has a sample of the course on her website, so you can actually kind of preview the actual lessons themselves and get a real vibe for you. And remember, you can get wings credit for it as well. So why take all those flight reviews when you can take a great course like this that not only improves your flying life, but also improves your health and your longevity overall? Because as we talk about a lot on this podcast, when you improve yourself, mental, physical wellness, and well-being, the flying naturally rises up with it. John, my friend, where can the people find us if they want to give us a little feedback on today's episode?
Well, every place you listen to this podcast, regardless of which application, has its own ranking system. So if you want to, wherever it is that you do listen, give us a 5-star review or a comment, hopefully a positive one, but we'll take any feedback we can get. So any way we can make this a better experience for you and make it more interesting, we're always looking to do that. If you have any suggestions for the show, ideas or thoughts, feel free to email us at calmcockpit@gmail.com. You can find us on our website, calmcockpit.com. And I think that's pretty much it. You can find us at any of the major social media platforms, including LinkedIn, which is a newer one for us. So
hope to see you there. Folks, if you're listening, you are part of that thin end of the wedge that is making this conversation normal in aviation. Know that this work is important, it's real, and it matters, and you are part of that great work. So I applaud you for taking some time to help your own self feel better, fly better, and do all the great things that you want to do in your life. So that's a wrap on this episode. Until next time, fly smarter
and stress less.
Airbus Air 1 departure is Airbus 321. Traffic holding crossing runway 33 left, 3 lane.